So there's a lot going on with addressable in terms of household delivered video advertising into the house in the US with mostly through the satellite operators, and here quite interestingly through Sky. What are the prospects for addressable delivery? Where does that stand now in the UK, and where do you see it going?
It's a good question. It's a complicated question. Modi in the US, Mike Bologna are doing some fantastic work with Reno and Irvin there, and they have some of the technology, some of the scale that we don't necessarily have in Europe or the rest of the world. In Europe and the rest of the world, you often will see that the markets are quite diverse. There are different players in the markets, there are different technology companies, and therefore, unfortunately, there's not just one approach. Well, if we take a step back and we start thinking a little bit about what is addressable TV, first of all, we know that consumption is changing. People are watching TV in different ways. Some people will define it as not being TV, other people will. That's difficult to 100% define today. But today you watch TV via your iPad, you then project onto the big screen, you do it over OTT, set-top boxes, many different ways, which obviously complicate the future of TV, but it also gives you opportunities to use data, to have more accurate targeting, not to rely on a panel that we do very much here in the UK and in the US, which based on so big markets, fairly small panels seems not very accurate. So every single advertiser I've talked to, and I've talked to a lot of our advertisers, they are very, very, very excited about the future of TV and addressable TV. And all of them are very, very willing to invest in that area. They're very willing to go out and spend money and try to learn and test and figure out what really goes on. So I think that's some of the basic things you have to, we sometimes forget to talk about that. Second to that is, now we run into the problems. We need to have technology, we need to have data, you need to have integration into set-top boxes, you need to have broadcasters allowing you to do it, and that's probably what slows down addressable TV in the rest of the world. It is difficult to get everyone to work together, and it is the way we work today will change potentially quite drastically.
So what are the factors that are going to push the industry? You know, money, the interest of advertising, what you guys can do. What kind of interest and what kind of brands and what kind of solutions or ROI or performance do advertisers look for addressable? Because after all, it's different than brand advertising in a way. What are sort of the market forces that are demanding addressable?
Yeah, I don't. There's a couple of groups. There's advertisers, as you allude to, and brand advertisers want more targeting. They don't want the overall top reach you do at a national level. That, in principle, addressable TV is too early for that. But there's a lot of niche audiences brands want to engage with. And you can do that much more with addressable TV. You have Sky, who developed in the UK, developed a very, 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 very interesting product. It's a product that enabled via the data they have, the set-top boxes. They have about 11 million households out of 25 million households in the UK. They're present in Germany and Italy, and they have given us an opportunity to buy into the addressable TV world, which is very, very exciting.
So what does that mean in terms of pricing and value, and what are the brands looking for, as, you know, more specifically out of an addressable buy?
Well, they are looking for more niche targeting. When you go into a niche targeting, the value, the cost of that niche targeting, when you buy it, seems higher. But when you calculate the outcome of that, actually is lower when they're buying today. We know that when we buy a certain audience, ABC1s, we don't necessarily get 100% of that audience. We get 8% of that audience, and therefore we can calculate the outgoing price. When you have addressable TV, you get much more closer to 100%. I would say no addressable TV products is 100% today because we're early days. But if you're higher than 30%, you are 50, 60%, all of a sudden you have a very, very, very valuable addressable TV product. And I would say Sky is one of the companies out there.
What about inventory? Well, we know, for example, in the States, it's a limited amount of inventory because of the carriage fee. Again, it goes. What about the available inventory that could become addressable in the U.S. through Sky, but perhaps through Virgin or others? Or
well,
how might that develop?
Well, Virgin, if we take UK as an example, Virgin has about 4.5 million households via set-top boxes, and if Sky has about 11 million, you're talking 15.5 million household out of 25 million. Then you put the Rokus on it, the U-views, etc., and then you're quite far. Some of the boxes are too old. You can't do addressable TV, but you actually have a market penetration of more than 50% of set-top boxes in the UK, which if you start saying we want to move 2, 3, 4, 5% of our TV budgets into this very, very exciting area for our clients, you're live. You have a product there. We have to be a little bit careful. We don't think we will change the world in one day. It will take time. But clients are looking for better value from what they have today, and addressable TV can give them that.
Cool. And more broadly around IP delivered and cross screens, we hear a lot, we see a lot. People are consuming in different ways outside of the box they have at home. What are your thoughts about effective advertising and IP delivered? Meaning, or let's talk about video on demand, mobile, live streaming. What do you think is good, and what do you think needs to be done to make it a better system for marketers?
Looking at it from a client and an agency perspective, there are many different models out there. You have interesting players like YouTube. You have Facebook coming out. Every week you will see news about TV. But you also have Amazon Prime, Amazon's bet in this world. You have Netflix that doesn't have advertising at scale right now, but one would probably suggest that they will have in the future. And then you have all the traditional players. So all of a sudden you're not working with 5 broadcasters as we probably are doing in the UK. You're working with 10, 15, 20 different companies. And then you get into what some of the challenges we have in the digital world, that when you work with so many, all of a sudden there will be inefficiencies in the beginning until you start having technology that can help you scale working with more partners. And that's one of the challenges I think we will see the next 5 years in this space.
Cool. And we're going to be meeting on the south of France soon for that Cannes Lions. What do you expect the conversation? You have a lot of colleagues, you have a lot of clients, of course. There's many people. What do you think is going to be top of mind, or some of the big themes that you hope are addressed, or learnings that you'll take away from Cannes this year?
Well, Cannes there's a very positive tone in Cannes. So you probably will not hear a lot about the big issues we have around fraud and the decisions we need to make about viewability. That we have a strong view on that in GroupM, both viewability but very much fraud. There's a zero tolerance to that, and yet it is a big problem. So I don't think you will hear too much about that, because Cannes is not about that. But that is one of the things I want us to address much better than we are doing today. One of the areas that fascinates me a lot is content. Addressable TV will enable new models. It will enable us to get much more closer to a user-generated content, and yet our advertisers don't really want that. But the way you generate, the way you create content today is changing, and who is doing it? ITV in the UK, 50% of their P&L is now from ITV studios, and therefore content creation. So they might think that the future becomes about content and selling that, etc. And there are many different aspects to that. Another aspect is people like Ronaldo, the football player, or Messi, the football player. Ronaldo has more than 150 million followers. 150 million followers. Messi has more than 90 million. And we can come up with all numbers for all of them. All of a sudden, they're becoming media companies. They're not football players anymore. They're media companies. Any media company that will have more than 150 million followers, that's different. These people will start working more and more in this space, and we'll see more and more professional produced content that's distributed in different ways, and which will change the whole industry.